And we are live. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the HackSmarter Twitch channel or my YouTube channel if you're watching this after the fact. My name is Tyler, and we get to hang out for the next couple of hours and hack stuff together. So welcome, especially for those of you joining me live, looking over the chat. A special shout out to Ranger and Big Beef and Bottleneck and the Sit-In, I'm probably saying that wrong, and D-Cats. And anyone else here who hasn't typed in the chat, thank you guys for hanging out. Here is our plan for this evening. We are going to dive into the latest Red Team Challenge room by TryHackMe called Intranet. Now, here's a disclaimer. Usually when I go into these rooms, I'm doing them for the first time. I have not done them before. This one's a little bit different. I started going through Intranet when it came out, which I think was last Friday, if my memory serves me correct, and I kind of spent my weekend on this room because it was so much fun and I was able to completely root it along the way, but it had such a unique attack path and a really heavy focus on web app pen testing, which those of you who want to get into pen testing, web app pen testing is likely where you're going to begin. That's what I do right now. And so I thought, hey, I want to bring this back and let's just walk through this on stream. And my goal is to take it slow and explain the process and methodology as we go through it. So even if you're new to this stuff and you are unable to do this room on your own, totally fine. I think just by hanging out and watching, you're going to learn something through the stream today. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and dive into it. Let me share my screen. The only thing I've done ahead of time right now is launch the machine. It takes just a couple of minutes for everything to get started. So the machine is launched and I connected to it with my VPN connection right here. So I'm on the TryHackMe network, but here is the machine. I reset my progress, so I'm not leaking any flags initially. So we have secure cola coders. We develop so you don't have to. The web application development company Secure Sola Coders has written their own intranet page. The developers are still very young and inexperienced, but they ensured their boss Magnus that the web application was secured appropriately. The developer said, "Don't worry, Magnus, we have learned from our previous mistakes. It won't happen again." However, Magnus was not convinced, as they'd introduced many strange vulnerabilities in their customers' applications earlier. Magnus hired us. He has hired HackSmarter Security as a third party to conduct a penetration test of their web application. Can you successfully exploit the app and achieve root access? Start the VM by pressing the green Start Machine button. Please allow the machine 3 to 5 minutes to fully boot. So here's how I think I'm going to approach this. I'm going to ask you guys before I do it. I want you to think about this. If you're approaching this, and follow along if you can. I believe this is a subscription required account. Let me check. Let's see. Only subscriber. So you do have to be a subscriber, but it's worth it. So if you do have a subscriber account, I'd encourage you to follow along as we work our way through this. But the first thing we want to do when we approach a CTF for a machine is to do initial reconnaissance with something like nmap. So what I first want to do is add this to my Etsy host file. That just helps me resolve the IP address to a name, so it's a little easier to enumerate and search. So I copied the IP. Let's go ahead and open up our terminal. And let's make a directory for intranet. We'll go ahead and go into it, and we'll do sudo nano Etsy hosts. I'm not lead enough for Vim. And let's go ahead and drop in our IP. Hit tab to jump over, and we'll call it intranet.thm. And I apologize, I have a cold from my kids, so if I sniffle, I apologize now for my sniffling. Let's just make sure we can hit it, and we can, so we can ping it. So if intranet.thm, the first thing I shared before is to do an nmap scan. You could also use auto recon. I prefer just to do it manually. When I did the OSCP, I did everything manually, and I passed on my first attempt and didn't miss anything. So I'll take that to my grave with me. So I just do it all manually. And the way I approach a machine is first I scan all the ports. It's a very basic scan to see what ports are open. Then we'll enumerate each specific port. We can probably guess port 80 is open because it's a web app, but let's go ahead and do the whole process. So we'll do nmap -p- just means scan all the ports. We'll drop in the name there or the IP, and -v for verbose mode, so we can just make sure nmap is working because I'm impatient. So right away, a few things that stand out to me. We have port 80 running, which is likely going to be HTTP. That's a web server. We have port 22 running, which is going to be SSH. We have port 21 running, which is going to be FTP, and port 23 running, which is going to be Telnet, and port 8080 running, which is often another web server. So those are probably going to be our main attacks. The reason I do -p- is if we don't include that, it only scans the top 1,000 most common ports. And sometimes organizations and CTFs believe in security through obscurity, and you'll miss a port that you need. But what I like to do is once this is going, I go ahead and start a second nmap scan. So we'll just name this tab nmap full, and we'll open a new nmap scan, and we'll just call this one nmap. And we have those ports open. So let's go and hit those specific ports. So we'll do nmap -p 21, 22, 23, 80, 80, 80. Going off memory, is it all of them? 21, 22, 23, 80, and 80, 80. And then we'll do -a, which just means an aggressive scan. That means we want you to enumerate each one of these ports. Let's see what is running on them. Let's dig into them and see what we can find for our initial attack path. And then -v. Looking over at the chat, Bottleneck said, do you prefer -v over -vv? To be honest, I don't know the difference. What's the difference, Bottleneck? I'm guessing -vv is like more verbose mode. I like always just use -v. Oh, extra verbose is kind of what I figured. No, I always just use -v. Is there a reason you use extra verbose? Let me know in the chat. I'd be curious. While this is doing its thing, we have to get our note set up. And usually I use OneNote for this. OneNote is where I have my other notes. So what we'll do here is we'll just, I have it open up in code here. Actually, let me open the right one. This is a remote on Hack the Box, which I believe, no, this isn't an active machine. I did a recent active machine. Remote on Hack the Box is a retired machine I did on stream last week. So I have just Microsoft code here, and we'll go ahead and open a folder. And we'll navigate to our TryHackMe folder and Intranet there. We'll open that. No, we don't need to make changes. Okay. And we'll just make a new text file, and we'll just call it notes. Beautiful. And we'll use this to kind of record our notes as we go. Throw that over to the side, throw this over to this side. And while this is doing its thing, I said before, we can kind of assume what's running. So we can assume, we can honestly begin enumerating this ourselves. We know that these are common ports and what's likely going to be running on them. So let's go ahead and just begin enumerating with like port 21, which is going to be FTP. So we'll open up a new tab. Let me get Twitch back open real quick. There's Twitch. What up, Overgrown Carrot? I'm doing well, my friend. Good to have you here. All right, there we go. Actually, our scan's done. So let's grab some of this information. We don't need to grab everything from port 80. We'll just grab what I think is important just to save our notes some space. We'll copy that. We'll drop it in there. And I just like to space it out just so it's a little bit neater. And then we'll kind of record our notes under here. Now, usually in OneNote, I have a separate page for each one of these services, but I'm just using this because it's a little bit quicker right now, and we're not going to use my full OneNote notes like I usually do. But we have port 21. So the first thing we want to check when port 21 open is FTP, is let's see if we have anonymous access to the FTP server. I like organization, so we're going to change this back to terminal. We can check nmap. We don't have any other ports open yet. And let's go ahead and try FTP. And we'll do anonymous at intranet.thm. Anything for the password, doesn't matter. Login failed. So we can say if we get creds, come back and check. So if we get credentials, we can always come back to FTP and check this and see what we are going to do. SSH probably isn't going to have any information for us. We're not going to be able to brute force. That's usually not the path forward. But if we get creds, come back to SSH. We'll add that as a note there as well. Telnet is not something that you would usually see open. Now, Telnet was one of the original protocols for remote communication before SSH, but Telnet is not encrypted, which means even if you use Telnet and you spin up Wireshark, you can see everything passed in clear text. You can see passwords being passed back and forth. You can see messages passed back and forth. So Telnet simply is not secure. So it's interesting that Telnet is open on this box. That should grab your attention. I think if we do Telnet, yeah, it looks like I have it from before. We can try it. Intranet.thm and 23. Okay, so when we go to Telnet, we get this prompt for workshop login, and we're given some very minor version enumeration. Now, it says that we're doing a pen test report for this client. In a real pen test, we would actually write this up as an informational finding because we have version disclosure. As a company, you do not want to disclose the versions that are in use because hackers can research that, maybe find anything with known CVEs, and use that to exploit it. So it's not a big vulnerability, but on a legit pen test, you would report this as an informational finding. Well, the fact that Telnet's open, that would be like, hey, bruh, quit using Telnet. But let's just go ahead and copy this for our own notes, and we'll put that under Telnet. So we can see Telnet is running. We have some version enumeration here, and we have a workshop login. All right, now we're at port 80 already. And anytime we come to a web port or a web server, there's a lot of things to check. And I like to make a to-do list before I dive into it because it's so easy to get caught in rabbit holes. So on a web server, there's a few basic things I would like to do. Looking over the chat, Joe40 said, hey, nice to meet. What room is this? This is the room Intranet on TryHackMe. Thank you, Bottleneck. Is it called secure? Oh, yeah, it is called secure solo coders Intranet. But okay, on this, there's a few things we want to check on a web server. So we will try directory enumeration. We'll try vhost enumeration. Read the source code, browse the website, and look for any usernames, etc. So just basic username enumeration. And I've, of course, already done this box, so I know what we're going to find and what we're not going to find. But I do want to go through the motions and show you guys how I approach this box initially. So we'll just call this GoBuster dir, and let's go ahead and get that scan running. So that's GoBuster. We'll do dir -u intranet.thm-w for a word list, user share, word list, dirbuster. This is one I like to use, this medium one here. I think that's the correct syntax. Beautiful. And now we'll also do GoBuster vhost. Actually, it'd just be intranet. THM, user, share, word list. We'll use seclist, discovery, DNS, and we'll do like the 20,000 one. And usually you have to exclude a length. I can already tell you we're probably not going to find anything with vhost. Actually, I know we're not going to find anything interesting with vhost, at least not right here. And so we did our directory enumeration. We did vhost enumeration. Yeah, these are all false positive. So you can see the size of 301. So we know that invalid pages have a size of 301. So then what you want to do is exclude length 301, and then it will get rid of those false positives. But okay, we did that. Let's go ahead and check out the source code. So let's go to our browser, intranet.thm. So currently under construction, we are working on a new web application, sincerely secure sola coders.no. All right, and if we look at the page source, that is all that's here. A few pieces of information that we have. We have a company name, right? Now we kind of know that from the room itself and from the pen test that we're on, but we do have a company name. So let's just add that. Some very basic OSINT there. We have a company name. That will come in handy later on, I promise. So we have that running. We have our scans running here. Probably not finding anything cool so far. And now we have another web server running on port 8080. And we have Python and WorkZerg, if I'm saying that right. If you know web applications, this should draw your attention that this might be a Python Flask web server. And so that will also come in handy. You could also just Google that and you'd be able to find that information. Or we'll use ChatGPT throughout this as well. And we'll ask ChatGPT some questions. And I'll show you how you can do some of this stuff with ChatGPT's help as well. And how I did it initially with some of ChatGPT's help. We'll use AI as we work our way through it. But let's go see what's going on port 80. The way to navigate to another port, especially for those of you who might be new to this, is you just do that, and then you can put the port in right there, and it will connect over port 80. And here on port 8080, we have a login page, right? And we can go ahead and, whoops, mark that down in our notes. So we have a login page here, and we're even given the syntax of what a username would look like. We have first name at secure-solocoders.no and a password field. And what I did when I first got to this is the first thing I always try to do is like admin at secure-solocoders.no. I think I'm saying that right. And we'll just use test. Okay, so here's something I look for on a real web app that I'm doing. Every time I am doing a web app pen test, one of the first things I look for when I'm testing authentication is username enumeration. This may not seem like a big deal to you, but depending on the response of a web application, you can discern whether or not users exist in the system, which seems to be what's going on here. So if we type in like hack smarter, whoops, I didn't mean to delete that part. Hack smarter at Secure Sola and hit login. Now we get invalid username. So the web application is telling us the username admin exists because there's a different error message. Truly something we look for on a pen test, and we would write that up as an informational or a low finding, saying that your web application has username enumeration, which would allow attackers to identify valid usernames for brute force or password spraying attacks. So something we would make a client aware of on a web application, and that's what's going on here. So we can maybe figure out some valid usernames that way, but if we look back over at our checklist, so if we glance at our checklist, sorry, I'm looking over the chat. Ventral said, what's the command used to search for vhost? Sure, I will go ahead and send it over to you. There, I dropped it in the chat. And one good thing with GoBuster, I like GoBuster because you can use GoBuster, and if you forget the syntax, just start typing vhost and then, whoops, h. And each one has its own help screen, so that's the help screen for vhost. If we're doing directories, we can do GoBuster, dir, h for help, and then we have a new one for directories. So I used to use Derby, but really, I really like GoBuster. Curious for those of you guys in the chat, what do you use for directory and vhost enumeration? I've really enjoyed using GoBuster. I like the syntax. It's nice and simple. It's fast, and it gets the job done. You can see it's not finding much here, but that's because there's not going to be much to find on port 80. I'm actually going to stop those scans. If I didn't know what I was doing, I would probably just keep them running, but you can see it's not finding much. But if we look over at like the list of things I made when we come to a web server, we have directory enumeration, vhost enumeration. We could do that on port 8080, and maybe if we got stuck, we could go back to that. But the other thing I have here is read the source code. We did that on port 80, so let's go ahead and read the source code on port 8080 and see what we have here. See here we just have some basic HTML. Does anything stand out to you guys? I want to give you a second to see it. All right, this should draw your attention to it. What up, T-Matron? It's okay that you're late. Better late than never. We're just getting started, my friend. This is what should stand out to you. Any bugs, please report them to our developer team. We have an open bug bounty program. For any inquiries, contact DevOps at secure-solocoders.no. Sincerely, Anders. Okay, so we now have 3 users. All right, so let's go over to our notes, and we can go ahead and we'll just drop down here, and we'll say valid users. Here are users that we know are valid. We know that admin at secure-solocoders.no is valid. We know that Anders at secure-solocoders.no is valid. And we know that admin at secure-solocoders.no is valid. Now, we tested admin with the web app where it said invalid password. And then when we used a fake account, it said invalid account. So that's our username enumeration. Let's go ahead and just test our theory. I'm actually going to throw my web application over here. Let's test that theory with these other accounts. So instead of admin, let's change this to DevOps. Invalid password. So we know DevOps is a valid account. And let's try Anders. Log in. And Anders is also a valid account. So we know that these are valid users. So we need to figure out a password. Now, if we look over at the hint, this is where I know a lot of people got stuck and tripped up on this because it requires you to make a custom password list. And I want to show you guys how I did it. but there's a bunch of different ways to do this. So it says, what is the first web application flag? Look at the hint. Think about the information you've gathered so far from the web application. So what information do we have? Well, we have the company name, secure solo coders.no, and we have 3 valid usernames. And he even says that usernames, company name, etc. You might want to generate a password list or make educated guesses. Right? Once you realize what the password is, you see how educated guesses would work, but my educated guesses clearly weren't very educated because my guessing wasn't doing it for me. And I think creating custom password lists is something that many of us need practice with, myself included. I first created a password list when I was doing the Red Team Capstone Challenge, if I recall, and we had to brute force, what was it? I think it was SMTP, if I remember right, and I had to create a custom password list based on what we had there. And for this one, I used John. I think I used it in the Red Team Capstone Challenge as well, was John. And specifically, what we're going to use is the jumble rule by John, but we are going to run into an issue with invalid characters. And here is when we're going to open up ChatGPT because my said skills of removing characters isn't that legit. Let me hit new chat. Hi, robot. There we go. Okay, we got our robot buddy going. Let's go ahead and create our custom password list. I'm going to copy this because we know this is the company name. Drop this over here. Let's just close this. I don't know about you guys. I don't like having a bunch of tabs open. We found port 70, which is Echo. I couldn't find anything on that, so I think it's a rabbit hole. I never used it. I'm going to stop my nmap scan because it found everything that we really need to find. And let's go back to this right here. TryHackMe and Intranet. Okay. Another question I am curious for those of you in the chat. How do you create custom password lists? Outside of Cool, I don't know how to say that. What Cool will do is it will enumerate the website and pull down a bunch of keywords from the website so you can make a custom password list. I did that initially, but it made too big of a password list, and then I just assumed, based on the hint, it's just the company name that we need. So let's go ahead and we'll mousepad, and we'll just call it word list.txt, and our word list is going to have a total of 1 name in it. We'll save it, cat word list.txt. There we go. And now what we want to do is create a custom password list using John. There's more information on this on the Red Team Learning Pathway on TryHackMe. I actually went back to that as I was working through this part to refresh my memory on how to do this, just because usually I just use rocku.txt and you're good, but rocku.txt is not going to work on this. You can go through the whole word list and you're not going to be able to get the password. Here's how you customize a password list with John the Ripper. We'll do John, and then we want to pass it our word list, which is just our, one word, but you could have multiple words there. And then we're going to use the jumble rule. This took some trial and error. I tried some other rules first, but the jumble rule seemed to work for me. And then we want to go ahead and put it out, and we'll just call it passwords.txt. I think I have my syntax correct. Okay, so we generated 70,000 ones. Shoot, did it screw up? Let's look at this. Oh, no, okay, so it got secure solo coders in there. So you can see, if we just scroll up here, you can see our whole password list as we walk through it. Okay, so we have a password list. Now we have to answer the question, how do we brute force this with this password list? The tool that I thought of right away, which I've used in the past, is something called Hydra. Now, Hydra's syntax is a little bit confusing. Hydra actually has a GUI that you can use. It doesn't work well for me, though, probably because I just don't know how to use it. So I'll show you guys how I used Hydra to attempt to brute force this password. And we have 3 users to attempt. We have Anders, admin. Oh, you're right. I have admin twice. I think someone mentioned that. Good call. It's actually DevOps. I don't know why I did admin twice. So I began with the Anders user when I was doing the box. So we'll begin with the Anders user now when I was testing stuff out. So to construct our Hydra command, actually looking over at my notes here, make sure I'm not missing anything as I'm explaining stuff. Like I said, usually I go through these live, so I don't have to look at notes. We just wing it and I get frustrated. But this one took me a good 3 days as I worked my way through it. So we'll do sudo Hydra, and then we have to pass it our username, which I think is capital I, isn't it? 1 second, I'm checking on my other screen. Oh no, it's an L. Lowercase L, not capital I. Ignore me. I can't read my own notes. Lowercase L. And then we're going to pass it the username that we want to send to it. And we're going to try Anders at securesolacoders.no. I believe I did that right. And for our password list, we want to go ahead and use... Actually, think I'm looking at my wrong notes. No, I think these are the right notes. We're good. I have rocky.txt in my notes, but that must have been when I was initially attempting different things, because I first tried rocky.txt and then kind of got stuck in a rabbit hole. Then I looked at the hint and realized what I was missing. So we'll pass it p and passwords.txt. That's just the passwords.txt file we just generated with John. And then we want to specify our target, which is intranet.thm. And then we have to figure out what kind of form is going on here. How is it passing the credentials to the web application? The way we can do that is if we pull up our developer tools, more tools, that's annoying, web developer tools, network, and go ahead and click login. We can see this right here. Whoops, I did not mean to do that. If we make this a little bit bigger and we look at our requests, we can see our form data here, and we can see the method. All right, y'all, you can see the POS, so we can assume it's post. I don't know why it won't expand for me. So we need to know the method that it's doing it, and we also need to know what the form data looks like. So we know it's posting, and we know the form data is right here. And so what we need to do now is, one, look at this. This caught me up for a while. We're on port 8080, and we have to specify an uncommon port because it's not port 80 that we're brute forcing, which requires the -s tag. All right. And then port 8080, because it's an uncommon port, we just decided it's a post method based on what we can see there. So we're going to do HTTP post form. And then we have to specify what the login looks like. And that's right here, the username right there. So we'll do login, username equals Anders. And now we're going to URL encode the @ character because we're passing this on a web form. I don't actually know if this is required, but this is how I did it. It may automatically do it in transmit, but when I did it, I URL encoded it just to be sure that everything was working well. So that's the URL encoded version of the @ sign, and then securesolacoders.no. And now we have to specify the password. Oh yeah, let me see. Am I not showing you guys? Oh, I apologize. My face is in the way. Hold up. Let me move my face. That'll be easier. There. Let me know if that's better. I just dropped myself down so you can see it. That might work a little bit better for this, so I'm not blocking the stuff at the top of my screen. Thank you for calling me out on that. I can't see what you guys see. I'm just watching the chat, not usually looking at the screen. Now, this part is important here because sometimes it won't be username. So sometimes it'll be like USR, right? So if it was, instead of username, if it was passing the form USR, you have to include that there. Hydra has to know where to inject this content. So you have to make sure this matches whatever is in the form data. So username, and then we have Anders, we have our encoded @ sign, secure solo coders no, and now we're going to pass it the password. And same thing here. If our form over here called the password like PSW, that's what you need to pass here. We're only doing the full password because that is what the form is passing as well, is the full password name. So let's go ahead and do that. Password. And now we're brute forcing the password. So now we have to answer the question, well, how do we pull the passwords? How do we get Hydra to iterate through our list of passwords and passwords.txt and put them in the password field? Well, the answer to that is our sweet caret keys right here. So we're going to do pass, almost function as a variable. And what that means is we want you to take passwords.txt iterate through it, and every spot you see pass, we want you to pull a password out and try it and see if we can authenticate to it. But then we have to answer the question, well, how do we know if we have authenticated to it, right? Well, let's go ahead and close this out, and we know that this is the error message. So if we authenticate, we're going to get a different message. So we need to tell Hydra on error, when there's an error, this is the message that you're going to see. You're going to see the message invalid password. And then -V is, of course, the verbose mode. Hopefully you guys all have this down. I'm going to go ahead and take this syntax, copy it, and I might have a typo as well. You guys might see like a glaring obvious typo. I'll fix it when I get to it, but I do want to share it over in the chat just so you guys can follow along. I'm making sure the chat didn't mess up the syntax. Nope, everything looks good over in the chat. So I dropped the syntax for that in the chat so you can follow along if you would like. And now let's go ahead and hit enter and let it do its work. And you can see it's passing each one of these passwords over there. Oh. Okay, so you're like, huh, that's strange, isn't it? It's telling us that we have a valid login with 4 different passwords. So you should think, well, maybe we should try one and see what's going on. Why is it telling us that we have a valid login? So let's take one of these passwords and go ahead and copy and paste it and hit login. What up, Oreo Bite? Good to have you here, my friend. Hit login. Ooh, so remember, we told Hydra, let's look at our syntax again. Let's understand what's going on. We told Hydra, if it's an invalid attempt, you will get this message, invalid password. Hydra got a different message, so Hydra was like, oh, we didn't get invalid password, so it must be, we must have authenticated. But look at our error message. Hacking attempt detected. You have been logged as that, and that's my TryHackMe IP. Detected illegal characters in the password. So we know that these are illegal characters, and here is where ChatGPT comes in. Can you use sed in Linux terminal to remove these characters from a word list called passwords.txt? And we'll pass him the characters. So if you don't know sweet coding, which I don't, I know enough to be dangerous, this guy can be awesome. Okay. So he's going to break down the command for us. SED is the command for stream editor, sed. I is option to edit the file in place. And then the set expression, this is the thing that confuses me that I can, for the life of me, can never get right when I do it myself. It's enclosed in single quotes. This indicates substitution. And then here are the characters that we want to be removed. And then empty replacement pattern, effectively removing the specified characters. So we're not replacing it with anything. So let's go ahead and take this code. And whoops, I didn't mean to do that. And let's go ahead and throw that into passwords. Do I have a quote out of place? Bruh, you have a quote out of place. You know, there's an error in the command, but he'll still do it a lot faster than me. Thank you. Thank you, robot. Okay. So that should have worked. Let's give it another shot. And we're actually going to have to do this a couple of times, but I think it's a good practice to see it in practice. So we have that with our new password list. Enter. I should have done capital I option to skip waiting, but good opportunity to take a drink of water. Here we go. Okay, we found a couple more, but it looks like it actually used one that should have been removed. Let's tell ChatGPT, remove all special characters from this word list called passwords.txt, please. And the reason we're doing that is we know that special characters are going to get caught. So let's just do that. KK Random said, is the video going to stay up? I don't know, dude. Freaking, they always yell at me for copyright, but I take my full recording as soon as we're done and I post it on my YouTube channel. So if you go to the description of Twitch, I am Tyler. Go to my YouTube channel. You'll see this posted on YouTube as soon as we're done. All right, now let's try. It's doing its thing. You guys are going to laugh when you see the password, though. Do 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 do. I should turn on my lo-fi music I had going on, and we can all just watch it like watching paint dry. I think I can also up the thread count if you wanted to, maybe with -T, and then we could have more threads running at the same time. But we'll just hang out together. I guess in the meantime, I can spam my YouTube channel since KK Random wondered where to get this video, and I'm sure other people might be wondering as well. So let me go ahead and grab that link for you as we wait for the brute forcing to complete. Let's go to your channel. I always forget how to get to my like customized link. Customization, there we go. Branding, basic info. All right, sweet, I got it. Oh, Bottleneck beat me to it. Dude, good work. I might just tell you guys the password. I promise you this will work if you let it keep running. The other thing I did, I don't know if this would make a big difference. It's actually taking quite a while. I ended up brute forcing it with the attack box. So this is how I had my machine set up. I knew there was 2 accounts, right? So we had DevOps and we had Anders. And so I actually used the attack box on one screen to brute force, I think, Anders. And I used my VM on the other screen to brute force DevOps. So I actually had 2 VMs, a TryHackMe VM and my personal VM, both doing this brute force attempt. And I believe the TryHackMe VM was much faster, probably because it's on the same network. And I think that's the one that actually eventually discovered this password. We'll let this keep running just for the fun of it, but I will show you guys the password, and I'll drop it in the chat. You're going to laugh when you see it. And this is why it could be guessable. So let me drop it in the chat for you guys. That's the password, Secure Sola Coders 2022. So when he says you could guess the password, you really could guess the password. We'll rename this to Hydra. We will just let this run. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do believe it was much faster on the TryHackMe VPN when I was using both to my advantage. So let's go ahead and throw this password in here. There we go. So if you brute forced it, or if you just guess Secure Sola Coders 22, this is your first flag. I know some people get mad like, why do you show the flag on stream? And here's the reason, y'all. It's really hard to hide flags on stream. So if you're literally just watching this and you're taking the time to type out this flag, you don't get anything by like increasing your TryHackMe rank. Like, get a life, bro. You're only cheating yourself. But that is our first flag because we have connected to it. I believe. I'm quite certain that's our first flag. There we go. Thank you. Appreciate it. Hydra's still doing its thing. That's going to take a while. We're going to stop it. I assure you it does work, though, with that. And even if we go ahead and cat passwords.txt, and then we grep, nope, not for that. If we grep for Secure Sola Coders 2022. Oh, no, it's not there. You know what? I think in my original one, I didn't do the .no. I just did Secure Sola Coders in my password list, and that's how it generated that. So because I did the Secure Sola Coders no, that was my issue there. I think actually Rye said that. Does your password list have it without the no? No. I'm trying to remember how my original password list was, because I had more than Secure Sola Coders. I bet I had secure solocoders.no, secure solocoders, and I also had Anders and DevOps as usernames in my original password list when I did this on Friday. So that's actually what I was missing. And actually, I want to see if that's what I was missing. Hold up. We're going to redo our John command because I want to make sure I'm not making this up. So remove passwords.txt. And I will just say, like, the process that we're doing right now took me a long time to figure out. So if you're like, how are you doing this so fast? Once again, it's just because I did this before. When I was doing this live on my own, it took me quite a while to get this first initial access. I did eventually get it, though. Actually, we need to change our word list. So I believe my original word list had that and secure solocoders.no and the different usernames. So I had like 4 things in there, which just made it a lot bigger. But once again, I did it from the attack box on TryHackMe, which allowed it to go significantly faster. All right, I think that is good. Now if we cat passwords.txt, and then if we grep secure solocoders 2022, there it is. So that must have been what I did. I did it that way. Rules jumbo, passwords.txt, and then you can see it does actually identify that password. But you could also guess, because that is a common thing that companies will do with the default password. Even people will do that as well, right? They'll have a password, and the only thing they change each year is the year or the season, like secure solocoders fall, spring, blah, blah, blah. But it is 2022. And that gives us initial access. And now we need a brute force 4 digits, right? Because we don't have access to this phone. So we need to figure out what is the value of these 4 digits. Now, when I did this initially, I cheated. Well, I didn't really cheat, but I have Burp Suite Pro at home. Not at home. Well, I do have it at home, but I have it for work. But I work from home, so technically I have it at home. But Burp Suite Pro has an intruder function that makes very, very quick work of this. But for this walkthrough, I wanted to change it up completely, guys, and I wanted to try Kato. I don't know if you guys have heard of Kato yet. I only demoed it for probably less than 5 minutes because I wanted to see if I can install it. And so here's the part. I always like to try to have something, me troubleshooting live and working our way through this, and thought, let's do it. Let's give this a shot. I saw, I think, TCM Security post about this. It's similar to Burp Suite, similar to OWASP's app. It's in the developer phase, so it doesn't have all the features yet, but it's a lightweight web security auditing toolkit built up from the ground up in Rust. So I thought, that sounds pretty cool. You can get started for free. Let me actually show you the options that we have here. So if we go to pricing, so for free, we have access to site map. We can intercept requests, replay, automate. Automate is kind of like intruder, request exports, and we can have up to 10 projects. And then the support is $100 a year. It's almost everything that you have up there. Support is just to support the developers of the thing. But I did use Burp Intruder. What Bottleneck just said is Burp Intruder is so good. I remember when I had the license. Yeah, with Burp Intruder, it's really nice because you can, in Burp Intruder, you can like create a list based on numbers, and you can specify from 000 to 9999, have it make a step of 1, and then it generates your word list for you, and you can make really quick work of something like this. The sit-in said, Kato Dev here. Awesome, man. It is good to have you here. You can see me struggle my way through it. As I was sharing, I've only done this for less than 5 minutes, I think. So I have not experienced with Kato at all. But let's go ahead and dive into it. I'm going to log into my account. You guys can see my username. I don't really care. Send me all the spam you want. This is my spammy email, so feel free to send it my way. I actually don't remember what I used for my password. I hope this is the right password. Okay, it was. Beautiful. So we have a few different ways that we can install this. We're just going to download Linux here. We'll get this installed. We'll just open it in the folder. We'll unzip it. Extract here. Okay, and now, home Tyler. Wait, we'll just CD downloads. Scroll up. So there's Kato right there. I think it just runs. Okay. I actually kind of want to do this. Do I have Chrome on here? How do I not have Chrome? Really? I feel like it might be weird if I use Firefox for it because of the intercept feature. Like, I feel like I almost need to use a different web browser, but I don't know. My instance name, we'll just call it TryHackMe. Okay. Beautiful. So let's go ahead and pull this out. I'm just going to pull this out here. So you can see it's all web browser type stuff here. We have this. I should have done like quiet mode or something, but we'll just call that Cato. We'll throw that to the side here. And it's very similar to Burp Suite as far as proxying goes. So you don't even have to set up your own browser or your own proxy if you have Foxy Proxy, because it all proxies over port 8080 if my memory serves me correct. So we'll just turn it on as if we were using Burp Suite. There's a few things that we can do here. The biggest thing, I need to create a project. Hold up. Let's create a new project. You've created your first project. Projects you create will show up in this table. All right, Burp Suite Community Edition, you can't even make projects. You need to spend the $400 to do that. When you wish to switch projects, click an entry from the projects table and press the select button. Fantastic. Your currently selected project will show up here. We're almost done. Let's head over to the CA certificate settings to finalize your setup. Let's do it. So, similar to Burp, download our certificate. We'll go here. We'll go to settings. We'll go to certificates. We will import. There's that. Open. Trust. Okay. Okay. Okay, I did that. Click OK. You're all set. You can now use Cato. So we have sitemap. We can set the scope. We can intercept request. We can check our HTTP history. We can match and replace. We can replay. This is kind of like repeater in Burp Suite. Automate is going to be sort of like intruder. Bottleneck just said burp price increased, by the way. It's now $4.49. Crazy, dude. Like, I do like Burp Suite Pro, but mainly just because I'm so used to it and I have it through work. If I did not have it through work, I wouldn't probably do this. The sit-in said better to exclude localhost from your Foxy proxy. Okay, that's a good idea. So that would answer my question. So the sit-in, if I'm saying your name right, when I did this initially on my other VM, I have Chrome installed. So I opened Cato in Chrome and then did everything in Firefox. So I was curious how that might mess with it. So if we look at this, we don't have any scope presets. I haven't done this. Let's go to make a new preset. And let's say what is out of scope matches any. How do I add one? You don't have any scope rules. Add rules using the form above. Let's make this big so I can actually see what's going on. Right there. Add rules using the form above. So we will say 127.0.0.1 is out of scope. I think that's all I have to do. The sit-in said it should work, but sometimes it gets annoyed. Yeah, that makes sense. I didn't even think about adding it out of scope, though. That works just as well. Okay, now let's throw this back over here, and let's try some basic things. So we don't need this up anymore. We don't need this up. Here is this. So let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's go ahead and try to intercept this request. Right now, you can see we're set to forwarding. We're going to change it over to queuing and hit submit. Oh, I should probably turn on my proxy. That would be a good thing to do first. Okay, attempt number 2. There we go. So you can see we have this right here. It successfully grabbed it. We can see the SMS, and we can right click here and we can send a replay, which is kind of like doing repeater. I'm going to pull this over, and so we can go ahead and click send. And then you can see our response here. So very similar to repeater, 2FA code has been sent, but we get the message invalid SMS code. So we need to create a word list of numbers from 0000 to 9999. Now you could probably do that very basic with Bash, but I do want to show you guys who might be new to this how you can utilize ChatGPT. So we can ask something like, "Hi robot, use the Linux terminal to create me a word list of numbers from 000 to 9999 by increments of 1. Output this to numbers.txt. The sit-in said if you have Cato Pro, you can do that directly in Assistant now. What? I should look into Cato Pro. That sounds really cool. And for only $100 and to be able to support the devs, I'll look into that and see if I can get that and maybe show it off on stream. Plus, looks like ChatGPT doesn't like me right now. He always does that crap to me. Probably because I have the free version of ChatGPT. Oh, no, it's because I have... Hold up, let's turn this off. We're trying to proxy ChatGPT. He probably doesn't like being proxied. Let's try that again. Create me a list of numbers from 000 to 9999 in the Linux terminal and save it to numbers.txt. We'll see if he does it right. We'll look at his code. Yep, that all looks right to me. So very simple. We're just passing a sequence of numbers, and we're going to output in numbers.txt. So let's go ahead and copy code. Okay, that worked. Simple. So now let's see if we can brute force this with this. So you can see we were trying to take down ChatGPT. Obviously, we have our backend API conversation. My authorization barrier. You guys can hack me now. Screen grab that, log into my ChatGPT account, try to make requests as me. Anyways, let's go to replay because here's this request here. And now we want to set it to the Cato version of Intruder, and unlike Burp Suite Community Edition, it does not rate limit the heck out of you. Like, Intruder's awesome, but in the Community Edition, it's basically worthless because of the rate limiting it has. I know OWASP Zap doesn't have rate limiting. I haven't used Zap a whole lot. What I don't like about Zap is just the UI. Like, I'm kind of picky. I just don't like the way it looks. What I really love about Cato is just look at it, guys. Right? You ever seen that video? Just look at it. It just is like beautiful, for lack of a better word. I love the color scheme to it. I love the simplicity behind it. There's not a bunch of crap all over the UI that just makes you feel like you're on a 90s MySpace page, right? It just looks pretty. And I really do enjoy that about just a little bit of time I've spent in Cato. Let's right click this and send it over to automate. Now, if we go over to automate here, you can see, very similar to Burp Suite, we need to mark what we want to attack or what we want to brute force. So let's go ahead and mark our SMS code right there, and we'll click mark, right? Very simple here. Our attack strategy, I think just all will work fine. And then we can go ahead and do, I think, hosted file. No? Maybe simple list. Load. I think hosted file might mean something with the cloud or maybe something. I don't know. But let's go over to TryHackMe. Let's go to Intranet, and let's go to numbers.txt. The sentence said, I would use the hosted files. Okay, hold up. I want to figure out what that is. What's the hosted files and how do I use it? Or do I need the Pro edition? Go to files first. Am I blind? Oh, on the left. Okay. Okay, I see. So this is the hosted files. You don't have any files. Files you upload here will be available for use in pages such as Automate. Oh, cool. Okay, so now if we go over to Automate, we have hosted files there, numbers.txt. Beautiful. We have that highlighted. Now let's go over to settings here. And here's what I like, guys. It doesn't rate throttle us. Let's just see, like, can we do 40 workers? Will that break the web app? Actually, let's do 30. I actually do think I broke the web app doing 40. Let's do 30. 30 workers, 30 threads. And let's go ahead and click start. Boom. No rate limiting, same functionality as Burp Suite Pro Intruder, completely for free on Cato. DCAT said, did I miss an indicator that 2FA would be 4 numbers? Yeah, the indicator is just, if we, you'll see it actually. It shows us 4 asterisks or whatever, so we know it's 4 numbers. This really shouldn't take long. I believe we're going to get a different status, of course, because if we authenticate, we're going to redirect, so we can sort it by status here, and we'll be able to see when we get the right payload in here. And there's a lot of web app portions to this room. I'm going to try to do all of it in Cato. And as I said initially, I did it all initially in Burp Suite Pro, so this will be a fun challenge for me to learn about Cato. And it looks like Cato's getting some nice comments over in the chat. So guys, check it out. Even though I use Burp Suite Pro, I would be very happy to see Burp Suite Pro get knocked down a peg by something like this. Mainly because I like the look and I like supporting real developers, not some huge org that has some crazy licensing stuff. And I'm going to start trying to use this, guys, on stream regularly, because often on stream I'll use Burp Suite Pro because that's what I'm used to. But I also recognize, like, most of you don't have Burp Suite Pro and you don't really need it unless you get it for your job. So I'll try to start using Cato on all my streams, like when I'm doing different machines, to demonstrate it, one, to learn it myself as well, and just to show there is a free alternative that's like Community Edition but isn't rate limited. The sit-in said, thanks, Guy. Let us know when you find bugs features. Absolutely, will do. I think you said, like, payload processing is coming soon. So that's the first thing I would say is I do like the payload processing type stuff on Burp Suite Intruder. I also shared it with my team. I work at Rhino Security Labs. Hey, we found it. And I share it with them as well. So I'll also let them know what I think about this. So here we can see, we can go ahead and cancel this now, because we found our payload. You can see our different status, which means 302 is a redirect, which means we likely got authenticated. And we can see the payload was 1505. So if we go ahead and go here, do I still have this intercepted? Let me go ahead and turn intercept off for now. And I will go back to this. 1505. Go ahead and submit. Look at that. We have our second flag, and we use Cato to get it. So let's go ahead and grab our second flag, drop over here, and hit submit. So it says, welcome. The main dashboard is still under development. Stay put for more features. Any features that we should implement, contact our local developers. Make sure to read both the internal and external news on a daily basis. So we have internal news. And what I like to do when I'm clicking around these websites is I do like to look at each request and just see what it looks like. So let's go ahead and queue it up. We only have one button here, which is update. Let's go ahead and forward this. Oh, did I get logged out? What the heck did I do? Did I not pass it? I bet it didn't pass it. I turned off my proxy, so I bet it didn't pass it. Oh, you must be. I'm not logged in. Hold up. What did I break? Yes, that can happen. Ignore localhost and Foxy proxy. Let's go like this. Whoops. We're just gonna download Chrome. And then I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do Cato in Chrome because that's how it worked really well for me when I was testing it offline. And then we don't have to worry about the proxy stuff. So I'm not even sure. Maybe I can figure out how to do it. So if I go to Burp Suite, if I go to options, so I can actually ignore it here. Here we go. Foxy proxy ignores everything on this page unless set to use enabled proxies by patterns in order. Add black patterns to prevent this proxy being used for localhost. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Nope. Downloading Google Chrome is going to be easier for me. I just can't believe I don't have Chrome on here. Usually I have Firefox and Chrome. Whoops. Check this real quick. What was it called? Just Chrome, right? Google Chrome stable current. So I think it is DBKG Google. I might have my syntax wrong. Do I have it right? I must have had my syntax right. Beautiful. Okay. There we go. We might have to redo our brute force attack because I think each time you log in, it's a random number to make it realistic. But we'll just do it again. We'll demonstrate Cato again. Totally fine. Let's go ahead and go to our Cato instance here, but do it in Chrome. Oh, that's not my Cato instance. It's running on what? Is it port? I didn't see what port Cato was running on. Okay. Oh, port 8080. Thank you. All right. This will work a lot smoother for us, I think. All right. I think I'm stuck in a weird loop. Oh, the sitting just filed a bug, so remember to fix the loop problem when using the same browser. Awesome, man. Appreciate it. And that's what's so cool about like developers of things like this. I wonder why it doesn't let me log in here. Like, oh, here it is. I'm just blind. Ignore me. Okay. We have Cato pulled up here. Do you guys remember if we go to automate, let's just redo what we were doing. One, good practice, and two, because I screwed it up by not having my things configured properly. Intranet.thm 8080. Oh, sweet. We're authenticated. Fantastic. So there's not a whole lot we need to change. Let's turn on Burp Suite, and we have not Burp Suite, it's Cato now. Let's make sure we have our queue on. So if I hit internal news, let's go to intercept. Okay, everything's working now. Forward. Beautiful. So as I was saying before, when I'm navigating the page, I want to see what each request looks like. So if we hit update, we can see this. Now, what stood out to me right away and what should stand out to you, actually, let me ask you guys, before I answer it, what stands out to you? I want you to take a minute and I want you to look at this request and think to yourself, what might be exploitable if you were doing a web app pen test? Got the answer? This is what stood out to me. this news parameter. And so we're going to go ahead and send this to replay, and let's just play with it a little bit, right? So I'll go ahead and make this big. We have news parameter. Often when you see something like this, especially in a CTF, is you might be able to get LFI, local file inclusion. We might be able to read files, or we could do RFI. Maybe we can make a request to ourselves and pull a malicious file down. One thing we can try, very basic, is can we read etc password? Hit send. Okay, we got an internal server error. So let's see, what if we go like this and add a few of those? Can we read etc password? And we can. So you can see this is likely going to be somehow our way in. We can read etc password through this news parameter. So if we go over and look at our hint, not that one. Go over and look at our hint on the third web application command. It says the CMD will lead you to the source. So that gave me the thought, the CMD will lead me to the source. I wonder what that means. And so let's consider a few things that we know that's going on. Where the heck did I put my notes? Here we go. So we have LFI on the news parameter, and we'll just drop an example of what our LFI looks like. I just want to copy that. Control C. Pull up our notes. So that's what it looks like, and that successfully gives us etc password. And we says the CMD will lead you to the source. Initially, I thought, well, maybe source code, but there's nothing too interesting in the source code. But then remember, what is running on here, right? Let's remember, if we look at this, let's say we have no idea what this is, okay? Let's go ahead and copy this, and let's use our chat GPT friend. Let's go ahead and turn off queuing, and we'll see if I can talk to chat GPT. So it says that's what it's running. What are some common Python web app frameworks? So we have Django is a high-level, full-featured framework, blah, blah. Flask is a lightweight, flexible framework known for its simplicity. Pyramid, etc., etc. May not know. Okay. I'll tell you guys it's Flask, but that's just because that's one of the only ones I know about, so I just assumed it was Flask. And I was correct in assuming it's Flask. So with Flask, things are configured a certain way. So let's ask ChatGPT, where is the config file for a Flask web app? And once again, when I was doing this in real time, it took me far longer than this to troubleshoot and figure out like what is going on. So we have in the above structure, the config.py file is stored in config folder, and we can also read through, like, let's pull up some Flask documentation. All right, welcome to Flask. So we could read through this, and this is actually what I did, just because I haven't used Flask. I say I haven't used it much, but I haven't used it at all. And I read through this to figure out, like, how does Flask run? I noticed there was this weird debug mode, which is going to come in handy later. This is really when I was really reading through the documentation to figure out how these things work. We have HTML escaping. Let's see if we can figure out installing Flask. Static files, rendering templates. So we have template rendering. That could always be like template injection attacks you might be able to do. We have template documentation there. Trying to remember where I found this at. Let's see if I can just find it. Okay, here we go. Application discovery behavior. As a shortcut, if the file is named app.py or wsgi.py, you don't have to use app. See command line interface for more. And so I thought, okay, app.py. And this was just trial and error. I initially started doing, I think I tried the config.py that ChatGPT first mentions. And then it says, in a Flask application, app.py is a common file name used for the main application file. That sounds like the source, or module that defines and initializes the Flask application object. The app.py file typically contains the core logic to the Flask application, which as an attacker, that might be something interesting to us. But we still need to know, like, where is it stored? Because we don't have directory listing, at least not that I'm aware of. So we need to know. So let's ask, what are some common places app.py might be stored? And a Flask project, the app.py file, blah, blah. A project folder, app.project folder, a blueprint folder. So we have a few different places that we can check. And I'm looking over at Fernosec. It says, if you have LFD, the proc file system is handy. Let's try that. Oh my goodness, and it gave it right away. We have user bin python 3 home devops app.py. So you guys can actually see our app.py right there. I need to record this for my own notes. Let me go ahead and just copy this and let's drop that. Pro move right there. That was much. So when I was doing this, dude, it took me so long because I wasn't familiar with Flask. So I don't know how many ones I tried, like file pass, until I eventually found it in the home folder. And I think ChatGPT was the one that told me, I was like, give me every possible location app.py could be hosted. And one of the locations he told me was like in the user's home folder. And then that's how I eventually found it. And we can see it's running as DevOps. So if we do home, there we go. Let's copy this into code and let's look at it ourselves. And let's see if we can kind of audit this code together. I also need to extend this room because I think the room might die soon. Let me do that first because I'm scared the room's going to die on us. Yeah, 18 minutes. Add 1 hour. There we go. Okay, let's go back to our code. Let's go to Explorer, and let's add a new file, and we'll just call it app.py. Drop our code in here. Why word wrap is not on by default? It's crazy to me. But let's go ahead and look at our code and see what we can find. So the first thing we notice is we have our next flag. So let's go ahead and grab our flag from here, go over to TryHackMe, and let's drop our flag in. And if we look at this, let's see what stands out. Actually, I want to know what stands out to you guys. I want to let you read through this first part first, especially if you're just like watching and following along. I don't want to give it away right away. Give you a second to look at it. In the meantime, you guys can check out my sweet custom Hack Smarter shirt. Hack Smarter swag, available at Walmart. Just kidding. I think there's only 2 of us in the world with these shirts. Okay. Here is what stood out to me right away. We have this key, and this key is being defined or appended with secret key and then a random number in this range, whatever 100,000 and 999,000. So the key would look like this: secret key and then number. That's the syntax for that key: secret key and then number. And then it's an app secret key. We're passing it the string and we're encoding and decoding things. This is actually what is being used in the Flask application to decode and encode a session token. So if we look over at this and we go to, do I have any in replay? Here's our session token right here. So this session token is encoded and decoded with the key set there with a random value. And if we can figure out what that key is, we can sign our own sessions. And then we can be any user that we want. So keep that in mind. That is something that stood out to me right away when I was looking at it. And then, of course, we have what we encountered. We are defining a function of checking hacking attempt, and we're passing it a value. And we have bad characters, and if you have one of those bad characters, we want you to throw an error. If any characters in bad characters for the value hacking attempt detected, you have been logged. We saw that when we are attempting to log into the application. If you checked robots.txt, which we didn't, it tells you to try harder. We have the app route, so we can pass it a get request. And if we don't have a session, we're not logged in, it's going to redirect us to log in. Else, if we have a session, it's going to redirect us to home, which is what it did. We have another endpoint called application, which I think is just a rabbit hole, because if you go there, it's just giving you a 403 error no matter what. Same with application/console, which sounds juicy. Even when I did my real attempt, I never actually go busted this, but if you did, you would probably encounter that and you would see, oh shoot, it's a 403 error. We can't actually get anywhere with that. Same with temporary. No matter what, it's going to just return a 403 error. Temporary dev also return a 403 error. So I think these are all just rabbit holes that you can fall into as you're going through this. Here is our login. And so we're defining a login function. And if we have a session, it redirects us to home. And here is some login that we can do. You can see it's detecting the legal characters in the username because it's checking the hacking attempt based on the username. So if you have an invalid character in the username, it's also going to do it. And same with the password. So it's using that function defined up there and checking both the username and the password for illegal characters and saying you have a hacking attempt. Here is bad coding practice, but you would be surprised how often this actually happens in the real world. We are hard coding our username and our creds in here, at least creds for one account. Here we have, if the username is admin@securesolocoders.com, send the error invalid password, right? And that's how we got our username enumeration. If the username is DevOps, send the error invalid password once again. But if username is Anders@securesolocoders.no, and if the password is securesolocoders2022, then give us a session with the username of Anders. All right, have that session, sign it with our key up there that we define, and give us a session as Anders. And then when you do that, give us an SMS code with a random range between 1000 and 9999, which we already did. And you have to put in the SMS code to get access. It redirects you to the SMS page. Else, it's going to pass us an error that says invalid password, invalid username. That just means if we do anything, we're going to get errors. Well, not that one. That's if you do Anders, you're going to get invalid password. But anything else is going to give us invalid username. There's that else caused right there. We have the SMS. Nothing really crazy here. They just said that if you don't have the right SMS, it's going to give invalid SMS code. Otherwise, it's going to redirect us. We have logout, of course. I want to keep going to the things that are real important. We have a template here, which shows we're passing to the current IP. I tried template injection when I was doing this myself by changing like an HTTP request header to like exported host, seeing if I could inject into the current IP, but I couldn't. That's not how that works. It actually is pulling my current IP. But here is something that should stand out to you when you're reviewing this code. The first thing is the session is a weak way to sign sessions, even though that's a big range, but I'll show you how we can attack that. We have this. If we're able to get access to the admin, it accepts two requests, a GET request and a POST request. So defining admin, if admin is not in the session, then redirect to login. Else, if admin is included in the session, we can make a POST request. I don't know why this isn't doing the tabs properly, but we can make a POST request. And if we make a POST request, with admin in our session. So hopefully the attack path is coming together in your mind. If we can figure out the key used to sign sessions, and we can sign a session that calls us admin, logged in as admin, then we can do a post request. And when we do a post request, it's debugging, but what should stand out to you is it's using os.system call in Python to debug. os.system is an inherently dangerous Python call to make because it interacts with the actual OS level of the system. You can have full RCE with the debug command, which if you read the Flask documentation, it says debug should only be used in development because it is using the OS system call. So when you're doing code review, that should be like, look at this, pay attention to it. You can probably abuse this. And it's still passing us our current IP. And then we have just some basic stuff of how we're getting to internal and things like that. But those are the pieces of code that stand out to me. We have a debug feature if we can get admin, and if we can just figure out how to reverse engineer this app key, which is used to sign the session, we could give ourselves admin. You guys tracking with me? Let me know on Twitch if that was confusing, if you're able to follow along, especially for those of you who might be new to this. Hopefully that all made sense and I explained it in a somewhat clear way. Tracking, fantastic. So let's go ahead and see what does this look like. We know it almost looks like a JWT token, even though it isn't quite fully a JWT token. But one thing that we can do is, do we have decoder in here? If not, maybe that would be a feature, is decoder. I know Burp Suite has decoder, but let's go ahead and I'll show you this, jwt.io. Oh, there is basic and convert. Did I miss it? I want to find it. Oh, there is convert. I'm quite literally blind, obviously. Yeah, so we have base 64 and we can do encoded. No. Decode? No. Oh, do I need to add this? There. How do I do this? Kato has convert. It's like a chef. It is like Cyber Chef because you can add the chains. I'd assume this would be the decoded key, right? But it tells me invalid. Boom. We're replacing it next version. I'm guessing it works fine. I'm just dumb. Oh, it's invalid. You're right, because like even here you can see, look at the data. The main thing I want to draw our attention to is actually this right here. So if we bring this over to Kato. There we go. So this first part, we can see how this string is set up. Logged in true, username Anders. So what we want to do is figure out how to make it log in true, username admin. But if we just do it this way, we cannot sign it properly. Therefore, it's not going to work. We have to figure out how to sign the session token with Flask. Too much talking, y'all. I'm losing my voice. To do that, let's just look this up. And this is how I did it. I looked up Flask Bruteforce cookie session. I believe this is my exact search. And I came across a tool called Flask Unsigned. And I thought, okay, what the heck is this? A command line tool to fetch, decode, brute force, and craft session cookies of a Flask application by guessing secret keys. For standalone wordless component, please visit Flask Unsigned wordless repository. We have some examples here of how to do it. You can use Flask Unsigned's automatic session grabbing function. We don't need to do that. We have our session, and I'll show you guys exactly how I did this, but let's go ahead and install. To install the application, please use pip. All right, easy enough. Go back to my TryHackMe. All right, and let's go ahead and do sudo. Just gonna say you shouldn't run this as root. And I'm gonna say, bro, I do whatever I want, homie. Okay, so we have Flask Unsigned. installed. And there's a few things that we need to do, and we will recruit our good friend ChatGPT to do this for us. So if we pull up our good friend ChatGPT here, do I have intercept turned off? Let me first check that. Yeah, okay, it's forwarding request. Perfect. Let's pull up our good friend ChatGPT, and let's look at our code again. Throw that over to the screen. So we have this. It's secret key, and then it's appending it with that range. So let's ask ChatGPT, can you help me create a word list in Linux terminal that does the following? Let's see if he did this right. For number in the sequence, yep, do echo secret key, pass it the variable number, and then throw it over to wordlist.txt. Beautiful job. And once again, I just want to show you guys how you can use ChatGPT to kind of be your assistant as you're going through CTFs. I even use it in the real world for web app type stuff. But you do want to be careful if you're doing this for an actual client that you're not passing, sensitive data over to that. But I think this should work. Let's just give it a shot and see if ChatGPT helped us out for it. I think I already have a word list. What's in word list? Oh yeah, we can remove that. He did it. Beautiful. So we have our word list there. So far, so good. Thank you, ChatGPT. I'm going to look over at my notes for how exactly I did my syntax here, because I know it was a little bit confusing. The first thing I did is I pulled my JWT token. So if we go over to replay, we have our JWT token right here, because we have to brute force to figure out what the heck that is. Did I not copy? There we go. So let's grab that, and we'll do mousepad JWT.text. I could have just echoed that as well. Okay, so there is our JWT. And the way we're going to use Flask unsigned to do this is Flask unsign, and we will do unsign. We're going to re-sign it once we brute force it, but unsign because we want to pull it out of here. So Flask unsign dash unsign, and then cookie. Cookie. This is our session cookie that we want to pass it. We'll use that to say, hey, we want you to do this JWT. Even, I don't know why I keep calling it JWT, guys. This isn't technically a JWT. It's more of just a session cookie, but for some reason I keep calling it JWT, so we're going to go with it. And then we have to tell it which word list we want to use to attempt to brute force to figure out the signature. So we'll say word list, and I think I just called it wordlist.text, right? Fingers crossed. Let it do its thing. We found it. So that is the key being used to generate this. And if you're following along on your own, your key is going to be different. Every time you start this machine, it's a different key. You can see it's a random. It's passing a random to it. So it's not consistent. You have to redo this each time, which is awesome. Makes it a little more realistic. So we found a secret key, but now we have to re-sign our session as an admin user. Another drink. And if we look over at Cato here, and we go over to convert, we can see we need to include this JSON, login true, username admin. So let's keep that in mind as we make this, and we will do Flask unsign sign, and then here's why can I not spell cookie? Here's the cookie we want it to make. We want it to do logged in. Hopefully I'm doing this right. True, not all caps. Username, admin. There, I think I have that right. And then it says, what secret do you want to sign it with? Well, we want to sign it with this secret. So secret key 382838. Like that. Fingers crossed that my syntax is correct. Okay. Ignore my broken Python packages there. But here is our key. So let's go ahead and copy this. Let's go to gwt.io. Let's paste it in. And let's see if it works. So let's go ahead and grab, oh, I did not mean to do that. Let's go ahead and grab the signature that we used to sign it with. Okay, signature verified. So we did sign it, create a logged in true admin with that signature, and we can see the signature is verified. So it did actually take it. It did actually work. So let's go back to this. Let's grab our signature here. Okay, and now let's go back to Cato. Right here. Throw Cato to the side and get this pulled back up. Go up to intercept, turn on queuing. Click admin. And instead of this session, let's go ahead and paste in the session we just made. All right, there we go. It didn't like the double lines there, I don't think. Okay, so there's the session we just made. And let's go ahead and forward this one. Boom, we just got access to the admin dashboard. And we have our next flag right here. Oh, whoops. All right, what is the user.text flag? So now we need to get RCE. How can we get RCE? Well, let's go ahead and look at our code base again that we're working with. This app.py. And if we scrolling. Try tamper if you want to keep the session. Okay, I will try that. We'll check out tamper next. We have this admin request right here. And actually, that's really good. Sitting on Burp Suite Pro, there's probably a thing as well, but I literally kept pasting in the stupid admin session. Actually, I think I just pasted it once and sent it to repeater because then I knew like I could mess with it from there. But it says if we do a post method, it will go ahead and do it'll debug. It'll do whatever is in debug. And if you look at the documentation for that, it's just passing it debug like as a body in the request. So let's go ahead and try that. If we go back to here, go up to this, and let's turn forwarding on, do this, grab our session, go here, paste the session in here. So I apparently can't do this. Go like this. I want to just send this to repeater or replayer. I have to get my terminology right. I keep using Burp Suite terminology. The Sit said we have a highlight bug. Gotcha. So it's not just me. Yo, Overgrown Carrot, thank you for the raid, my friend. Welcome, everyone. We are using Cato, testing out a new web app thing. It's pretty awesome. I like the look, written in Rust. Hang along and see how we do. So anyways, though, we have this, and if we look at the documentation, a GET request is just going to bring us to apparently nothing. What do you mean I'm forbidden error? What you talking about, bro? Oh, did my cookie break? I did change my cookie, I think. Let me try to grab it again. I thought I had the right cookie, and then I sent it straight to repeater. Oh, there we go. No, I must not have. I'm clearly making that up. So that a GET request just does that. What if we just send it a post request with nothing in the body? I think send to replay sends the original request rather than a modified request. Oh, hold up. So each time I do this, is it not taking... Oh, so it's not actually... Interesting. So it's not actually... like, although it looks like it's passing the session, it's not doing it. So you told me to use tamper? Is that match and replace? What's tamper? Well, screw it. Let's just do this. Oh, replay is correct now. Oh, so I don't have to, so this is correct. So if I change this back to get, we're good. Okay, cool. So on the post request, we get this error. Is preview render? Oh, so I need to install a rendering engine. Let's just check this out. I want to see what this is. Preview must be rendered, like in Burp Suite you can render. Let's just try to render the page, and since we're testing out Kato, let's see if it works. Oh, cool. So in Burp Suite you have that render functionality. In Kato we have preview, and then we can render it. That's cool. I like it. Okay. If we change this to post, I don't know if I'm going to have to change the content type stuff. Let's just try to do like debug, and this is blind command injection. So it's not going to actually input anything out to us, but because it is blind, what we can do is if we open up our terminal, let's host a Python web server, and then we know if we have command execution. Before we start really messing with the command execution, we can figure out what is going on here. So debug, we can do command. So let's try like wget, a plus just for a space, 10.13.4234, test.text. Okay, no, it did not work. So if I go back, oh wait, did I do post? No, I did post, okay. So that didn't work. What we may need to change, I'll look over at my notes to see what I all ended up updating. So we have user agent, that's of course going to be the same, accept is going to be the same. I think I just need to change content type so it correctly reads that I'm passing it in a body down here. So let's just try that. If I add a header for content type, I think that's what I'm missing. And then you can see it. We have command execution. I mean, right here, it's command execution / SSRF. We're making a request out to our server. But you can see we successfully got this get request for test.text. Awesome. And then what I did, and here's actually maybe a question. Does Kato have a URL encoder built in? Like, can I right-click and URL encode stuff? Or maybe you have to send it over to convert, and then you can URL encode possibly. So that would be one request if I think the Kato dev is still on here. If we could somehow right click and like URL encode, that would be awesome. I'm guessing I can send it over here and URL encode it. Not in the right click menu yet. I'm guessing that's like in the plans, I'm sure. So let's look up one thing that I tried almost right away. Anytime I'm on a Linux box, first I tried netcat, but that didn't work. And then I thought, well, I bet Python is installed. So then I checked to see if Python was installed. So if we go back to replay, well, I said this is blind command execution, so we won't actually see it. I think I just assumed Python was installed. And I did a Python reverse shell, and I believe that's how I got initial access to the box. So if we take like a command like this, and let's bring it over to Kato, and let's try Kato out. If we go to convert, and we're gonna go ahead and URL do it decoded. Let's pass this in here, and we'll specify the full path, user bin python3, and let's go ahead and give it RIP 10.13.4.234. We'll give it the port that hackers obviously use, port 1337. Start a listener. Gosh, guys, I'm talking too much. I've been talking for an hour and 45 minutes straight for free. I should get a reward for this. All right. My reward, guys, is subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's my main platform. Appreciate it. Find it in the description of the video. Okay, we have this, and it URL encoded it. I think that'll work. Let's try it. It's that crazy URL encoding. Fingers crossed. Good sign. Hey, we have a shell on the machine. Beautiful. All right, we are on the machine as DevOps. Use Cato to do it. Thank you, Cato. And now let's go ahead and upgrade our shell. Looking over at my OneNote because I always forget the syntax for this. So we'll do user bin python3 -c import pty, and this is like a fake upgrading of your shell. Like, it's not truly a stable shell, but it works for most purposes. There we go. So we are DevOps. If we do ls, we have the user flag right there. So let's go ahead and grab the user flag. User flag. I'm quite certain that's the user flag. I'm still pretty sure it's the user flag. Still think it's the user flag. Nope, I'm still quite certain it's the user flag. Oh shoot, do I have freaking Cato on? I always do that. All right, let's turn queuing off. There. My answer was correct a bunch of times. I always screw that up. All right. Whoop, whoop. Your answer's correct. Correct. All right. User.text flag. So if we look at our hint, it says look at the running processes. So, you know, we should probably look at the running processes. One second. What did Furnosec say? Export term, X term. Okay, let's try it. Oh, beautiful. I can use clear now. Thank you, dude. You're the real MVP. So to look at running processes, we'll do ps.aux, and then we want to add W, if my memory serves me correct, because if you don't add W, the things are cut off. Let's add W, and let's just make this full screen so it's a little easier for us to read. And let's see. Okay. Let's look at this. Actually, I want to let you guys look at this. This is something I caught almost immediately. So this next one took me maybe just 5 minutes live when I was doing this. I immediately saw the privilege escalation factor when I did this. I want to know if you guys do. I'll let you look it over for a little bit. If anyone sees it, let me know in chat. I know there's a little bit of a delay between my stream and what you guys are watching, so I'll give it a few seconds. My hint is we want to get to the Anders user. Nope. No right answers yet. Okay. Here's my next hint I want to give you guys. Oh, there you go. DZE got it. Apache 2. Now remember, we have 2 web servers running on this. Let's go back to our notes. Right? Notes are important. We have 2 web servers running. On port 80, we have Apache running, okay? On port 8080, we have Python Flask running. If we look over at this, we see that the web server, Apache, is running as Anders. Okay, so if it's running as Anders, what if we have write permissions to the web root? Couldn't we possibly upload a PHP web shell? And if the web server is running as Anders, it will execute as the Anders user. Won't we then get command execution as Anders himself? That was my thought right away, and I was right. So if we go here, ls echo test, we can write to it, right? Test.html. So now, just for a proof of concept, let's go to hp intranet.thm, test.html. We can write to it, and this is being executed as the Anders user. So if we just go ahead and find like PHP reverse shell, the classic pen test monkey, believe this is actually in Kali Linux itself. We'll grab this reverse shell, make it raw, copy it, go over to some terminal that we have. We actually still need that. Here we go, and we'll do mousepad, mousepad shell.php. Zoom in so you guys can see it. There's only a few things you need to update here, and it actually tells you right here, like, here's what you need to update. So let's add our IP in here. And for our port, what port shall we do today? I already did 1337. We'll just do 443, make it more realistic, the port for HTTPS. And that'll be our listening port. And I should, maybe click the save button. We'll do netcat nvlp 443 to listen on it. We're already hosting it on our web server. Keep our things cleared. We'll call this DevOps shell. Okay, and now let's see if we can download that. So we'll do wget out to our IP, ls. We have it there. Now it should be as simple as going out to our browser, shell.php. There we go. We are the Anders user. Let's go and upgrade our shell again. User bin python 3. Do I have to do this before I do your sweet xterm thingy? I need to add that to my notes. Beautiful. Okay, let's grab the flag for this guy. Almost done with the machine. All right, now we need to get the root flag. The hint for that is, what can you do with this user what can you do as this user with the current permissions? One of the first things you should always check before doing like automated tools like linps, I always check sudo-l, and I check suid, and I check capabilities in Linux. Those are often common privs factors on CTFs. So let's do that. And look at that. So the user Anders may run the following commands on Workshop. Let's glance this down, jot this down, and understand what's going on here. We'll pull this up. And why is word wrap not default? Like, come on, silliness. So we have our user Anders can run with no password. What this means for those who might be new, sudo means super user do, or I think people actually debate what sudo actually means, but basically run commands as the root user. So as the root user, without a password, without knowing the password of Anders, which we don't know what it is, we can run sbin service Apache 2 restart, which just restarts the Apache 2 service. Now, when I first saw this, my initial idea was Apache 2 is not specifying the full path to the Apache 2 binary. So maybe I can create my own Apache 2 binary in temp that is like a reverse shell, and then I can update my path so that temp is in my path, so when Apache 2 is executed, it executes properly. That was my initial thought, and I actually tried it and it wasn't working. And I dug in a little bit deeper and I realized it wasn't working because it is specifying a secure path. So it means the binary that's being executed has to be within this path, and the Anders user does not have write permissions to anything in this path. If we did, let's say we had write permissions to one of these, then we could make an Apache 2 binary, trick the system, and figure out like, run that instead of the real Apache binary, and we could elevate our privileges that way. That was my initial thought, but it did not work. Hold up. I just lost Twitch on my other screen. Let me get you guys pulled back up. There we go. I got Twitch pulled back up. So then what I ended up doing was linpiece, seeing what places I could write over, but even that wasn't that helpful. It did give me a little bit of a hint, but I'll show you one thing that I ended up checking. Just looking over at my notes to see. Well, so all my notes are funny. If I show them to you guys, it's me attempting to do the path hijack that I kept trying to do to see if I could hijack stuff. But then I decided we should check the Apache configuration in etc. Maybe there's something in there that I can write to. And if you run linpiece, you'll actually see this. And let me show it to you guys. I need to get linpiece first. Hold up, let's change this to Anders shell. We got our web server there. Intranet, locate linpiece.sh. There we go. And linpiece is like a tool that will enumerate the file system. The one thing I always try to say when I'm running linpiece or winpiece, for those of you studying for the OSCP, do not become reliant on these tools. Although they're allowed on the exam, they're probably not going to help you on the exam. OffSec designs their machines in such a way that your automated tools are not going to find the privilege escalation path. So get really used to manual enumeration, especially going through the file system. That would be my help to those of you from when I passed the OSCP. Let's go ahead and make that executable. You can see linpiece explains a little bit about what it is. It'll give it a little bit to run. And guys, considering the fact that it has been 2 hours of me talking without a break, I think now is a good time for a 5-minute break. So let's go ahead and take a short 5-minute break. I'm going to stand up a little bit, rest my voice for 5 minutes, and we'll let linpiece run and we'll dive right back into this. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. Yo, sorry guys. I was typing in the chat. I didn't realize my countdown was over. Here I am. It's the countdown on stream is a little bit behind like real life, so I was paying attention to my Twitch countdown and wasn't paying attention to the real countdown. Make sure everything's good. I don't have any music going, right? Test. All right, good. I have a laptop here where I have it turned on, but I don't have headphones to monitor myself, so I don't actually know how things sound. All good. Okay. Let me go ahead and go back to sharing my screen. And I hope what stood out to you guys from the sudo stuff is we can restart Apache. So that tells us, well, privesc has to be something with Apache too. I saw a few people saying, hey, can we edit this? We cannot. We don't have write permissions to that. And I think as Fernosec was saying, I think it was Fernosec, maybe it was someone else. Yeah, there he said it has to specifically be service Apache to restart. So we can't do anything crazy with the path. As I said before, I spent way too much time trying to abuse the path and make it execute my malicious Apache 2 with no luck. So let's look through these results together, and let's keep our eyes open to anything Apache 2. I'm going to go kind of fast. There's some things we could check out, some seemingly credential stuff, but it's not going to help you. We have some database stuff, some backup files inside others' homes. Nothing real cool here. Writable log files. And this is another thing I got sidetracked on, guys, when I was doing this machine live, is I tried to do log poisoning. And so log poisoning is a really cool way that if the server is storing your logs and you're able to like access the logs via LFI, you can change your not user ID. I'm trying to think of the string that identifies you as the user. But anyways, you can change that to like a bash script and you can actually get RCE via log poisoning. I spent way too much time when I was going through this machine myself trying to get log poisoning to work, and it never worked. I thought that was the way in though when I saw that. Path. This also was like 95%, hey, we might be able to exploit this. I couldn't exploit it. I think one of you said this service stood out to you. If you can figure out how to exploit this, I would love to know, because I spent, once again, a little bit of time trying to figure that out, and I couldn't exploit things properly there. But this is what stood out to me. I was like, oh, what's that? Like, usually that is basically a script that runs when Apache starts, if you know Apache, you've set it up before. And you can like put in a bash script there and it should run when Apache starts. So I thought, well, actually, let me be honest. I way overthought this. Let me show you guys what I did, because maybe someone else made the same mistake I did. It still works in my head. I still don't get why my initial attack didn't work. But cat, etc, Apache 2. Oh, not cat. ls/la. You can see we have, on just this one, we have write permissions right there. We don't have anything else. We have execute permissions. And if we cat that, what this does is it allows it to run as different users. So you guys wouldn't believe how many times I redid this attack path because I kept killing the box on accident. Here's what I tried to do. I saw, okay, we can specify what user the Apache service runs as. So in my head, I just changed this file so that it would run as the root user. Doesn't that make sense? Like, I changed it so it would run as root, and then I restarted the Apache 2 service, and I figured, well, I have write permissions to var www HTML. I'll just use my same reverse PHP shell, but instead of getting access as Anders, I'll get access as root. Still makes sense in my head, right? Every time I did that, the web server died and never came back online, and I had to fully reboot the box and go through the full attack path again, including like brute forcing the SMS, brute forcing the session, re-signing the session. Don't do that. And then I thought, okay, what the heck am I missing? So then for testing, I changed this to the DevOps user, and I did the same thing. I did the reverse shell, and I did get a reverse shell as the DevOps user by changing this to target a different user. I was able to log in as DevOps. So there's something that doesn't allow root to do this. And then through trial and error, and I think I trying to think of how I came to this conclusion. I think it was doing more research, or maybe I saw a hint in Discord of like an obscure hint and I understood kind of what they were saying. I realized all this file does is it is just a script that runs every time Apache 2 is started. So we can like overwrite the script. And if we stick with our Python that we were doing, so if we go back to payload all the things, we can actually take this file right here. Let's pull open our notes so we get our syntax right. And let's go ahead and type in 10.13.4234. We'll just keep it 4242. That's fine. And we'll change it to user bin Python 3. Want to make sure I have my syntax right. I think that's how I did it on my notes. And then I just encoded it right. So I'll show you guys my actual notes. I'm going to grab my notes down from here. So here is what I ended up doing. I echoed that in. You'll notice you have to escape characters in the Linux terminal so it reads it properly. And we echoed that. I used 4445. Screw it, I'll just use 4445 again. But all we're doing is taking that and echoing it into that file. I'm going to take this and I'll drop the syntax over in the chat. I hope Twitch didn't screw up the syntax, but there's a syntax of the command there, so you don't have to try to type it from your screen. If you're watching on YouTube, sorry, you should have joined me on Twitch. So there's that. Let's go ahead and start our listener on port 445. Right there. And grab this command, copy, make sure it looks right. And it does, 10.13.4.234. We really have one crack at this, guys, because if this fails and Apache 2 doesn't come back online, because I lose my Anders shell when Apache 2 goes down, because my shell is based on the web shell, right? That's why I kept killing it. I should have set up better persistence. But now if we do sudo-l, we have this. So we can run that as sudo. So we'll do sudo sbin service Apache 2 restart. Fingers crossed. We are root. And there is our final flag. And I've completed the room for the second time. You guys are my only friends, so I'm sharing it with you, my friends. We got it. I'll go back to camera. A really fun machine. Kudos to the creator of this box, Toxicator. Really, thank you. I don't know if Toxicator's on here or not. He shared this on LinkedIn, so he might be joining us live. So Toxicator, if you are here, truly one of the best boxes I have done recently between both TryHackMe and Hack the Box. I really love the strong web application part of it. The other thing I hope you guys took away from this is Kato is a really cool tool and a really good alternative to Burp Suite Pro. It has some of the features that really stands out to Burp Suite Pro. What I use Burp Suite for the most is the intercept request, the replay or repeater, and then the automate. But with Kato, you're not rate limited on the automate command, and you can run through things, you can brute force things all with Kato. Really cool tool. I'm going to start using it on stream moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and get that subscription, and then we'll see if we can use like the AI assistant as we're doing it, which sounds like a really cool thing. I want to figure out how that works. But kudos to the Kato team, the Kato developers. Thank you for such an incredible tool. And hopefully I'll learn a lot more as I work my way through it. And maybe one day I'll try out Kato on an actual assessment for work and just see how it goes. So guys, thank you again for hanging out. If you joined late and you missed the beginning part of the stream, all my videos get posted afterwards to my YouTube channel. So if you go to my YouTube channel, which I believe is in the link here, can I just copy a link? I'll drop it over in the chat. There, it's in the chat, not the Brandon link. Let me make sure that link actually works. Okay, it does. So I do this all for free, y'all. I don't have monetization turned on YouTube because I hate ads. I don't have monetization turned on Twitch because I hate ads. I don't make any money from this, guys. It is a labor of love. So the only payment I ask in return is subscribe to me on YouTube, follow what I do, and hopefully we can make an impact in InfoSec together. Hope you found this content helpful, guys. Have an incredible evening. I'll begin uploading this either today or tomorrow morning, and you'll see it on YouTube. Otherwise, you guys have good night. Peace out.